All right, that's a tough act to follow. Unfortunately, I don't have a ton of photography, but I want to talk about some of the problems that were brought up. We're living in an increasingly crowded and hot world. Every day, the news floods us with intractable problems that the solutions aren't obvious. I think what we need to figure out is what are the organizations, what are the companies out there that are going to help us lead change. Social enterprise, social entrepreneurship seems to be all the rage these days, which is fantastic because more and more individuals are sort of stepping up to make change. But how can we compel organizations to act as a force for good? I think we started to see a sea change with some companies, saying, hey, we're not going to do bad things anymore. We're going to reduce our carbon footprint. We're going to try and be benevolent. But I think we need to go further than that. We've seen companies that have started to sell environmentally friendly products or socially conscious products, but they do so at a premium. Great, we need to do more than that. We've seen companies that are treating their employees well. Fantastic, that should be a given. We see companies that are now philanthropic in nature. They donate 5% of their pre-tax profits. Fantastic, but what more can we do? I recently graduated from Wharton right down the street, met three fantastic guys, Jeff, Andy, and Dave, and we sort of shared a passion for wanting to build an organization that could be a force for good, that could ask what more can we do? And we're first going to try and do that through the optical industry. I want to just ask a quick question of the audience. How many of you guys wear glasses? Please raise your hand. Oh, quite a few. Okay. How many of you paid $400 or more for that pair of glasses? Also quite a few. That sucks, right? I've been there. Jeff, Andy, and Dave have been there. And it doesn't seem quite right. Glasses were invented 700 years ago. Why do they cost as much as an iPhone? Last time I checked, there's no rare earth metals in it. It doesn't have complex gadgetry that needs to fit in the palm of your hand. It just doesn't make sense. And this was a question that the four of us decided to ponder during our 2 years at Wharton. What we found was that there are some very large companies that are keeping prices abnormally high. So we set out to set up a company that would design vintage-inspired frames and sell them with prescription lenses for $95. And for every pair that we sell, we're going to distribute one to somebody in need because we recognize that, hey, there's over 500 million people on Earth that can't afford that $95. When you look at the optical industry today, you find some very, very large companies. One of the largest is a company called Luxottica, does about $18 billion a year in revenue. They basically control the frame industry. Most of you guys that raise your hands are probably wearing Luxottica frames. They own licenses to about 20 brands, Ralph Lauren, DKNY, Chanel, and you wonder, well, what do you mean they're licensed? Well, when you're paying that premium for a brand, that brand hasn't touched that frame. It's another company that's designing the frames, manufacturing those frames, and selling it to the optical shops. They're just paying a commission to that brand. So we thought, let's design our own brand. Why should I pay a commission to a brand that's not even touching the product I'm wearing? This company, Luxottica, so 20 brands that they license. They also own eyewear-only brands such as Ray-Ban, Persol, Oakley, Oliver Peoples. They also own retail shops, Lens Crafters, Pearl Vision, Sunglasses Hut. I'm sure many of you guys have visited a few of these places. What we decided to do is bypass these guys. We want to bypass the large licensing companies, want to bypass the optical shops that often have a 3x margin, and transfer all of that consumer surplus onto the customer. How can we take billions of dollars from this industry and erase it? And we thought we could do that by going direct to consumer online. So all of our glasses are sold through our website. Jeff, Andy, Dave, and I sort of thought, we got an opportunity here. but how do we sort of build on that? We thought it was an economic opportunity, and we sat down and we said, let's do this. It's actually over a drink, about a block away from here. But we set one rule, and that was we want to be friends afterwards. And I think that set the real tenor for the organization, because I think we've all heard about tons of organizations, right, or companies that have started, and the founders start hating each other, and best friends no longer speak to each other. We didn't want to do that. But it's a lot easier said than done. So what could we do realistically? Well, number one, we decided we're all going to be equal partners, right? We all come from different experiences, different values, but we're going to be equal partners. We're going to put an equal amount of money in. We're going to work equally. And we're going to have ownership vest over time, so that way if for any reason, one of us, two of us, three of us, all four of us left, the people that remained with the company would continue to get ownership and be rewarded for the work forward, and we wouldn't have to feel bad if one of us had to leave for whatever reason. The second thing we did was have check-ins every month. I know it sounds really simple, but we would sit, at a restaurant, not talk about strategy, not talk about tactics, and just get to see, how are we doing? How's our relationships? How's our working dynamics? What are you doing that's positive? What are you doing that's negative? I'd say, hey, I got that email at the middle of the night. It, rubbed me the wrong way. And that's how you maintain those relationships. And it was that was the foundation. Okay, as founders, we're gonna treat ourselves well to make sure that we continue to be friends. But what about all the other stakeholders, right? You have your employees, you have your customers. Then we started to think about, all right, well, what about our neighbors? What about our neighbors across the world? The philosopher Peter Singer once said, you wouldn't hesitate to jump into a lake if you observe somebody drowning 10 feet from you. Are you not any less compelled to do so if you know someone's drowning, 1,000 miles away? And then we thought, what about our neighbors that haven't necessarily been born yet or will be born in the future? We need to create an organization that's serving all these different stakeholders. So the first thing that we did was set values. And again, this is something every company does. But we thought, what are values that we live by? We live by fun. You only live once. We want to be friendly and nice to people, treat people with respect. Again, not novel ideas, but let's just ingrain it into what we're doing. So we decided, all right, we're going to create this organization. It's going to be a force for good. Well, the first thing that we needed to do was design some glasses, because at the end of the day, everything, at least from this company's perspective, is going to revolve around the glasses. So we decided we're going to design the glasses that we love. We're going to make them from the same materials on the same production lines as those really expensive glasses, and we're going to actually go and make sure that the factories that are producing them are safe and working conditions that aren't doing harm in the world. Before going to business school, I had actually run a nonprofit social enterprise called VisionSpring. And what we did was we trained low-income men and women to start their own businesses, actually selling glasses to people in their communities, selling glasses to people on less than $4 a day. That organization is a force for good, right? They're creating jobs for low-income people, and particularly women. And when women have access to capital, they tend to use it on the health and education of their children. So we have that great impact. And then you're providing the tools to see. And the tools to see are so important to work. I mean, can you imagine a farmer that needs to separate seeds to plant, or a tailor that needs to thread a needle, a person working at a loom? But it wasn't just that. What we also learned was that, you couldn't give just old functional glasses to somebody. Glasses are part of somebody's identity. It has to do with their dignity. I'd be in the poorest villages in Bangladesh, and you know what? The social hierarchy there is the exact same as right here. If they were wearing 1970s cat eyes, they'd be ridiculed, right? Just as we might be if you were to wear them to class. So it was important as we think about what we wanted to sell to consumers. Right now we're only in the US, but also for our philanthropic part, what we gave away, that it was new, that it fit, fashion sensibilities, that it made sense in the communities where we were distributing it. Once we had, this is actually just a photo of me in Bangladesh. It's probably the nicest that I'll dress in quite a while. And again, that was because you have to, be appropriate in different places in the world, and fashion has a big part of that. So here we have the foundation for what could be a great company. So as we think about our stakeholders, again, we were thinking about our customers. We want to give an awesome, awesome experience. And we thought, okay, well, what do we like, dislike when we buy glasses? Well, for one thing, you walk into an optical shop and there's 1,000 pairs. That's completely overwhelming. It's confusing. So we created a curated line, 27 shapes, 3 to 4 colors each, easy to choose. The other thing that we hated is that before you go into an optical shop, you often see that sign, $99. It's like, oh, great, I want a $99 pair of glasses. But you walk in, and there's 2 feet of shelf space selling unbranded crap frames. And when you start adding in the lenses with your particular prescription, with the coatings you want, suddenly it jumps to $400. So that's why we set the price at $95 with the prescription lenses, the same exact lenses that we enjoy. It doesn't necessarily need to be the absolute best, but they're very good. So it's sort of that mindset, constantly thinking, how do we want to be treated? How do we want to treat other people? Then we started thinking about the website. Okay, how is this thing going to function? And we literally went on PowerPoint, printed out every web page, how we thought it should look, and went up to about 100 of our classmates and would bother them over lunch and say, hey, what button would you press? Okay, great, that'll take you to this page. What button would you press? And then, basically get more and more feedback to constantly improve. We thought about, all right, well, what about wearing glasses, right? Are you going to buy a pair of glasses that you've never worn before? I mean, Zappos have proved that you could buy shoes online. So we tried to think, all right, well, how can we remove some of these barriers? What would we want to do? Well, first, I want to try them on as quickly as possible. So we got access to this great facial recognition software where you can upload your photo and virtually try them on. And the second thing is, let's create a home try-on program. You select 5 frames, we ship it to you free of cost. You get to try them on at home for 5 days, show your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your dog, anybody, and then ship it back to us. No obligation to buy. If there's a pair that looks great on you, fantastic. Then we'll put the prescription lens and send it to you. We also took another page out of Zappos' book and said, man, let's do free shipping, let's do free returns. Again, this should be a risk-free environment. And let's have the people answering the phones and responding to emails not be some robot based in a foreign country that doesn't speak the language and is working at crazy off hours, and actually have that be an enjoyable experience. Again, not necessarily novel, but these are experiences that we all think should be happening but are not happening. And the question is, why? So then it came down to build the team. And I think when you want to build organizations, right, those employees are a very important part of the stakeholders and who you need to serve. And the first thing you need to do is work to select the right people. If people are not in the positions or organizations where they're meant to be, they're not going to thrive. So we spent a lot of time thinking about position descriptions, having them be very detailed. We spent a ton of time when we were interviewing people on personality and fit. We wanted them to share our values. We then, would have conversations and again use a lot of those strategies that we use to keep Jeff, Dave, Andy, and I together to keep them motivated. Monthly check-ins, monthly outings. We had 2 rules. It couldn't be a normal bar, and it had to foster teamwork or collaborations. We did a doubles ping pong tournament. We did a laser tag, different things to make the workplace more enjoyable. Again, in itself, not particularly novel. I know there are a lot of places doing this. Everyone's, I think, heard of Google's offices. Often I'm quite jealous. But fast forward to when we launched the company. We launched the website February 15th of this past year. We were super lucky to be featured in Vogue and GQ. 2 days later, we were in Daily Candy, sort of a marketer's dream, right? We hit our first year sales targets in 3 weeks, but it was like, uh-oh. Again, really exciting, but that brought us to our first question mark and the first time we really had to employ our values, and that was, crap, we're running out of inventory. We had sold out of our 15 top-selling styles in 4 weeks, and the demand kept flowing in. So what do? Do you just take orders and start collecting a bunch of customer information, credit card information, say, hey, we'll get it to you when we can? We were sitting in my kitchen, Jeff, Dave, Andy, and I, and sort of debating what to do. And it all came back to, what do we stand for? how do we want to treat people the same way we wanted to treat people? So we wrote emails individually. We spent the whole night basically just expressing how we felt to our customers, and that was, we are terribly sorry. We're super thrilled that you're excited by what we're doing. We didn't realize our idea would resonate with so many people. We're frankly really humbled, but we're sorry because we weren't prepared for it. But rest assured, next time we're going to try and be prepared. So that's where sort of we find ourselves in this sort of organization as trying to think about how can we be highly considerate and how can we be a force for good. And I think we've hit the nails on the head in just 6 short months in terms of having happy employees, happy customers, we've distributed over 10,000 pairs of glasses to people in need, but how do we even be more thoughtful than that? So for example, we're now thinking about, all right, well, we don't want to just dump free glasses on markets because there are different levels of poverty, and there are certain people that need free glasses, there are certain people that have the ability to pay something. So we're working with organizations like VisionSpring and trying to be very thoughtful there. One of the things that we're going to launch in December is they have a great program in El Salvador, and for every pair that a parent buys, we're going to make sure that we cover a free pair for the child, because we found that sometimes the children's eye care needs aren't being prioritized. The other thing is, hey, how can we continue to do more even beyond eyewear? We started just the other day, our whole team did the Race for the Cure, and this was just because somebody had the bright idea, what if we did a pink pair of glasses? It's right on your face, it's very visible. October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Great. We quickly launched a frame. $50 of each sale now goes to breast cancer education and awareness. We're now thinking about collaborations with Invisible Children, which helps rehabilitate child soldiers in Uganda. And again, the question is, what do these have to do with glasses? And the fact is nothing. But what it has to do with is, what can we do more? And that's a question that every individual needs to ask, and every organization needs to constantly ask itself. And that's why we're doing this. It's what motivates us every day, and we're hoping that there'll be a lot more organizations that consider themselves a force for good and can help inspire others to create more and more change. Thank you very much.